But then we turn right around and do the same thing that we were afraid the white man was going to do to us to ourselves. I mean, what kind of sense does that make? All right, welcome back to Black Statistics. My name is Sherman. I am your host, and in this video, we are going to take a deep dive into some statistics involving abortions and pregnancies in the black community. More specifically, we're going to take a look at some numbers out of the state of Mississippi. And if you're like me, you'll be both surprised, maybe a little bit disgusted by the data that we find there. Now, keep in mind, this is from the most recent data from the CDC, Mississippi Kids Count Data Book. You can find more information if you want to search for it by going to those sources. And I'm sure you'll be just as surprised at some of the stuff you find as I was. Anyhow, without further ado, let's take a deep dive. First off, let's take a look at the pregnancy rates in the state of Mississippi. Now, the first thing we're going to notice is when we examine the pregnancy rates in the state of Mississippi, that black women have the highest pregnancy rates in the state. And then we find that despite comprising about 38% of the population, black women represent a disproportionately high percentage of pregnancies in the state of Mississippi. Now, this is in direct contrast with the numbers pertaining to white women, who comprise about 59% of the state's population, and they have a disproportionately lower pregnancy rate relative to their demographic size. Now, that disparity right there is it's what you call a key characteristic of Mississippi's reproductive landscape. Just that little bit of information right there provides some great insight into what we're about to see regarding these numbers and the vast differences, and maybe it'll trigger some questions, the desire to ask some questions about why things are the way that they are in Mississippi. Now, outside of black women and white women, when it comes to other racial groups in Mississippi, Hispanic populations, Asian populations, both of those populations have much lower rates. And this is really just a reflection of their smaller demographic sizes. Now, again, before we move on, it's important to remember that everything that we are talking about here, everything that I bring up, for the most part, it follows national trends. This is the way it is around the United States. But it just so happens that in Mississippi, things they seem to be on the worst end of the scale, almost to the point where you have to start to wonder what's really going on. Let's take a look at some abortion data. We just went over some basic pregnancy data. Let's have a look at some abortion data in Mississippi. What you'll find is that the abortion data in Mississippi presents a similar trend and some of the same type of disparities. Black women account for approximately 73% of all abortions in the state of Mississippi. Now, this is a figure that significantly exceeds their population proportion. I mean, think about that for a second. We just mentioned that we're dealing with 38% of the population, right? Black women, 38%. Now, we have an abortion percentage that's 73%. Think about that for a minute. 38% of the population, 73% of abortions. When I read that, I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. I mean, it almost made me sick. But if you're like me, you want to get a better understanding, the best understanding you can of not just the numbers, but what are some of the underlying factors? What's going on? What's driving these numbers? Why does it look this way? It tells us that in Mississippi, black women are not only more likely to become pregnant, they're also more likely to seek an abortion. Now, contrast this with white women who make up 59% of the population. 59%. Yet, only 23% of abortions. So 59% of the women in Mississippi are white, but only 23% of the abortions. What does that tell you? Going on, when it comes to other racial groups, the remaining 4% of abortions are distributed among the other racial groups. So in Mississippi, 73% of the abortion, black women. 23% of the abortions, white women. The remaining 4% is spread out amongst all the other racial groups in the state. So let's take this data and let's cross-reference it. The pregnancy rates, the abortion rates, let's take all of this, put it together, across demographics, across racial groups in the state of Mississippi, and see what it tells us. Once we do this, a very, very clear pattern emerges. First things first, as I mentioned, black women in Mississippi are more likely to experience both pregnancy and abortion than their white and other race counterparts in the state of Mississippi. It also suggests, or that pattern suggests, that a significant portion of pregnancies among black women in Mississippi result in abortion. Why is this so important? It's because that trend differs among all other racial groups. Going forward, white women, while more numerous in the population, have lower rates of both pregnancy and abortion. What this indicates when you compare and contrast those two groups is both reproductive or different reproductive decisions as well as different reproductive outcomes. And again, the data for other racial groups is less pronounced, but it follows the same national trend. Lower pregnancy, lower abortion rates. So here's my question. Black folks, what are we thinking? That's what I'd like to know. What are we thinking? The young people, what are the young people thinking, or the younger people thinking when it comes to pregnancy? What is abortion to them? Is abortion merely a form of birth control? Is it a last resort? Is it a simple and easy way to clean up a mess that you don't want to have on your hands, or a problem or issue that you don't want to deal with? What do we think in terms of not getting pregnant in the first place? What about contraception? Both males and females. What's the attitude that's prevalent among the young people? What about the parents? What role are black parents playing in the pregnancy rate? I tell you one thing that used to fascinate me. I used to think it was really interesting. When I was younger, when I was a kid, in my house, it was really, either you do as we say, we follow our rules, or you can't live here. There weren't a lot of arguments, debates about how things were going to go. But I hear so many parents now say, well, they're going to do it anyway. And this goes far beyond just sexual intercourse, getting pregnant and stuff like that. It goes on to the things that we put in our body, whether that be in a liquid form or a gas form or smoke. But in any case, I hear people say all the time, they're going to do it anyway. So I'd rather them do it somewhere where I could keep an eye on them. And that just sounds like such a defeatist attitude to me. To me, that sounds like as a parent, you're saying that you have no control. But my thought process is power and responsibility. Is a direct relationship there, direct correlation between power and responsibility, right? They say with great power comes great responsibility. The opposite is true as well. With great responsibility comes great power. So if that is the case, if I'm responsible for you, then in order for me to be responsible for you, I have to have some type of power over you. If I have the attitude that you're going to do it anyway, in any relationship, you're going to do it anyway, I have no power over that, then it's not my responsibility either. I can't have the responsibility to not have, any power, just as I can't be empowered and not have a responsibility or be obligated to act responsibly with the power that I have. So as a parent, what are you thinking what is a parent thinking when they say they're going to do it anyway? I mean, it seemed like at a minimum you would say, well, if you're going to do that, you're going to do it by disobeying me. But you're not going to do it here in my house. I don't know. It just makes me ask the question: who's in charge? And then when we think about like the older folks, the parents, the older black people in the community, the parents. What are we teaching? What are they teaching? What's being taught? What information, lessons passed down to the next generation? This didn't happen overnight. Didn't just happen. There's a series of things. There's a number of factors that are involved for it to be this way. It's not just one thing. But what was passed down? What lessons were taught? And this is the thing that really gets me. This is the thing that really pisses me off. It's like we have a culture, right? Call it what you will. Say the black culture, right? Whereby we have all these conspiracy theories, all these different conspiracies about what the white man is trying to do to the black community, to black people. White man this, the white man that. But then we turn right around and do the same thing that we were afraid the white man was going to do to us to ourselves. I mean, what kind of sense does that make? Like if we said, the white man doesn't want the black man to be successful, doesn't want the black man to grow and flourish in the United States of America. Well, one way to do that as a quote unquote community would be to strive for success and then have children and strive for their success, strive for them to be successful, and have children who are successful so that your population can succeed as a population and grow into a larger successful population, or at least sustain itself. Yet we look up and we find that the highest rate of abortion, meaning the exact opposite of that, deleting babies, are black people. Now this is where it gets interesting. I mean, this is maybe a topic for another video, but at this point is where it gets interesting, because at this point is where you will see people who come in with excuses and defenses. And that's what gives me a little bit of insight into how folks are thinking. How would you respond to that question? Would you excuse it or defend it, or would you condemn it, or would you put forth solutions? And then the other side of the coin is that this data, these statistics, are not based off one person, one situation, one individual situation. It is a combination or culmination of tons of different decisions made by different individuals who may be in different situations. Everybody's situation is different. That further complicates the situation because it's not being done as a whole, although the results are what they are. Each one of these pregnancies, each one of these abortions is the result of an individual decision. And then the rabbit hole gets deeper. So the conversation can become both one that is subjective and one that is objective. Here, the numbers are what they are, the statistics. So we'll deal with what we know is, and that is the results. That is the data. And the data says that in the state of Mississippi, black women, despite representing a smaller proportion of the population, account for the majority of pregnancies and abortions. Let that sink in. Despite being a smaller proportion of the population, account for the majority of the pregnancies and abortions. And you know what should really make you think about that is the next time you see a rally of folks talking about how folks are being denied their reproductive rights, see who you see on your television or on your phone or on your computer. See their faces, see what they look like, and tell me if they look like the people who are experiencing the most pregnancies and the most abortions. Be interested to find out what you see when you take a look at that. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and share. And as always, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when I produce another piece of content. And join me in the conversation. Let's talk about black statistics. Let's talk about not only facts and figures, but notable figures and notable people in history that help shape history. Because after all, black history is American history. So let's keep in touch. Peace.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry.